Alrighty, well, good afternoon and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our last installment of our Money Smart Week programming. Today we have Jerard Gray from Empower, who's going to be speaking to us about the differences between Roth and traditional retirement accounts. So there are some distinctions, and depending on your own personal situation, hopefully he'll be able to give you some information that might indicate which would be best for you. Gerard has over a decade of experience within the financial services industry. He enjoys helping people to create a plan and achieve their financial goals. Gerard has been working with New Jersey employees and retirees since 2019. Prior to joining Empower, Gerard served as a financial consultant, aiding high-value account owners with retirement and non-retirement account planning and investment needs. He holds a bachelor's degree in finance from Morgan State University. He has earned the Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor designation and is a Series 7 and 63 registered representative. So welcome, Gerard. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to our patrons today. Before we jump into your presentation, I just have a few housekeeping items to go over. First and foremost, we will be taking your questions throughout the program today. So at any time, please send them using the Q&A or the chat feature in the Zoom dashboard, and we'll be happy to address them. There will be a survey available at the end of the webinar, so they ask if you have time, please complete the survey. Again, we always appreciate any and all feedback that you can give us. And if you want some more just general information on Roth versus traditional retirement accounts, the Investopedia website has a lot of great information and resources on there, so you can check that out at a later date, and I'll put that in the chat so that everybody has a live link to it. One last thing before we jump into the presentation is just a brief overview of the Zoom dashboard. This is what your dashboard should look like if you're using a PC or a Mac. If you're using a mobile device, the dashboard may look a little bit different, but all of the features will still be there. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can check your audio settings. So if you're using an external listening device like a headset or earbuds, you can make sure it's connected properly there. At any point during the presentation, if you have any issues, there's a raise hand button here in the middle. You can click on that and that'll alert me. I will send you a message in Zoom and hopefully be able to resolve any problems that you are having. And as I mentioned before, if you have questions, send them to us at any time. There's the Q&A and the chat feature. You can use either of them, and we'll be happy to address them. So that is everything that I have for you. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Gerard now.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. Thank you for the intro. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. As Andrew mentioned, I'll just cover a brief presentation about the benefits of Roth versus traditional pre-tax contributions. Again, if you have any questions, type them in the chat box area or raise your hand, and Andrew will be able to either read your questions or, maybe unmute you to just speak your questions out loud. It's a pretty straightforward presentation, but again, any questions, please feel free to ask. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. So in general, when looking at retirement plans, they usually give you these two options now. At one point, the Roth after-tax option was not available, right? So for a lot of people, when they started their careers, a while ago, Roth wasn't even an option. It was always just traditional pre-tax. But now Roth is an option to, again, just give you more options to see what may work best or what you prefer. So today we'll discuss some of the contribution facts, how a distribution works, pre-tax versus Roth contributions, a Roth 457 or workplace retirement plan such as 401k, 403b would fall under, a similar category of the 457 versus a Roth IRA, because a lot of times people hear the word Roth and automatically just think IRA, but Roth can apply to many different types of retirement plans. We'll also take a look at the impact on take-home pay in regard to Roth contributions and Roth withdrawals. And then, I'll just share some additional tips and tricks at the end. So when it comes to Roth contributions, again, these are available in most retirement plans these days. So the option to use it is yours, right? You can make a traditional pre-tax, you can make a Roth after-tax, or you can do both contribution types if you would like. This particular slide is showing the contribution limits for workplace retirement plans such as 401ks, 403bs, 457s. The max contribution for 2023 in those types of plans would be 23,000. And if you're someone who is 50 plus, you can actually contribute up to $30,500 for the year of 2024. For a 457 plan in particular, you may be eligible if you already participate in previous years. You may be eligible to even contribute up to $46,000 for that 457 plan. But ultimately, when it comes to these contributions, it's a combined maximum. So no matter how you split that dollar amount between traditional and Roth contributions, you cannot exceed the dollar amount of 23,000 or $30,500, depending on your age. So that's a huge benefit for those of us who are really looking to stash away or invest a lot of money for retirement. These workplace retirement plans give you the ability to really save a lot of money each year. So the goal is obviously to get as close to or max out that contribution every time that you can, because once the year is over, you're not able to really go back to previous years and make contributions. So you definitely want to take advantage of the opportunity you have to contribute as much as you can towards that maximum each year. And in reference to that, a lot of times, like Andrew mentioned, I've been working in this industry for over a decade. Many people put off retirement, especially younger people starting early in their careers. They're like, hey, I'm so far from retirement, it doesn't matter. I don't need to save now, which couldn't be further from the truth. Um, it's something that I wish I would have started a lot sooner myself. I wish I would have started from my first job back in high school. But again, the main thing I want to say here is no matter where you are in your journey, start saving for retirement. It does make a huge difference. The earlier, the better, right? Even if you have to start at a small amount of money, it's better to start small than to wait years and then just start big. So again, usually that person who starts small and gradually increases the contributions over the years does better than the person that waits a long time and then just dumps a lot of money in towards the end. And that's because of the compounding effect of investing your money in things like the stock market. The longer time you have in that game, the better that compounding effect works in your favor. So, again, if I can emphasize one thing when it comes to saving money for your future, start as soon as possible, wherever you can, and gradually increase it. And that'll really put you in a better situation than waiting to a later time. All right. So the benefit of Roth really comes in reference to the distributions that you take from a Roth account. So as you understand, it's uh, basically the tax treatment of contributions and withdrawals that make traditional contributions different from Roth contributions. So each Roth withdrawal that you make contains a proportionate amount of contributions, the money that you put in, and earnings, the growth from your investments, right? So every withdrawal you make contains a portion from each contributions and earnings. Because you've already paid taxes on your contributions, they're always able to be withdrawn federally tax free. Um, the earnings that you've made on those contributions, the investment earnings from those contributions can also be withdrawn tax free if your distribution is considered qualified. So, what makes a distribution from a Roth after tax account qualified? To be qualified, your Roth money must have fulfilled the 5 taxable year period of participation. That period of participation begins the first day of the calendar year in which you make your first Roth contribution to the plan and ends when the 5 consecutive calendar years have passed. You must also be 59 and a half or older, deceased or disabled at the time of the withdrawal for it to be considered qualified. So if both of those conditions are met, basically you're 59 and a half or older, you met that 5 taxable year period of participation, you'll be able to withdraw all of the money from the Roth plan, including the earnings, federally tax free. And that's the main benefit of a Roth. You want to be able to take advantage of withdrawing your earnings federally tax free. Um, so sometimes you may be in a position where you take a distribution from a Roth where the money is not considered qualified yet. So if your distribution is not qualified, the earnings portion is only taxable at your ordinary income tax. The contributions portion is never taxable at withdrawal because you've paid taxes on those contributions as you put that money into the Roth account. So again, if you take a, a distribution from your Roth that is not qualified, meaning either you're not yet 59 and a half or older, or you haven't had the Roth contribution fulfill that 5 taxable year of participation. If one of those is off, it's not a qualified distribution, and whatever earnings you withdraw from the account is subject to ordinary income taxes. And in some instances, depending on the type of plan that you have, it may also be subject to a 10% federal tax penalty. So this slide here just illustrates the difference between how Roth contributions and pre-tax contributions are taxed, right? So as we already mentioned, both contribution types are usually available within these retirement plans. Again, the choice to use either or both is yours. Traditional contributions are made on a pre-tax basis, meaning they reduce your current taxable income, right? So if you're looking to reduce how much taxable income is being reported to the IRS each year, the traditional pre-tax contribution can help you to get a tax reduction, get a tax deduction, again, from your taxable income for that particular year. Your Roth after tax contributions are taxed before the money is contributed to your account. So before that money touches your Roth account, it's already coming out of your paycheck after taxes have already been taken out. Pre-tax is just the opposite. That money is coming out of your paycheck before federal taxes are taken out. So again, that's the main difference. And then, of course, when you withdraw the money from your plan, any pre-tax contributions and the earnings on those pre-tax contributions will be subject to ordinary income taxes as long as you're 59 and a half or older. Again, if you're younger than the age of 59 and a half, depending on the type of plan you have, it may be subject not only to ordinary income taxes, but also to a 10% federal tax penalty for early withdrawals. As we mentioned in the previous slide, if your Roth money is qualified, your after-tax Roth contributions and any investment earnings related to those contributions can be withdrawn federally tax-free. So again, those are the differences. So if you're someone who needs tax relief right now, you're like, hey, I'm really getting killed on federal taxes. I need to reduce my taxable income that's being reported to the federal government. Then the traditional pre-tax contribution will help you to do that. If you're someone who just prefers to pay your taxes up front, so later when you're 59 and a half or older, you'll be able to withdraw all of your money tax-free, then the Roth would be the best bet for that situation. Another thing is some people know their tax situation a bit more than others, and we can all just look into it ourselves. But in general, you're kind of thinking about which option could work best for you, right? So sometimes, depending on your income, again, you may want to avoid taxes now because maybe you're in a high income tax bracket. And again, you're like, hey, I'm getting killed on taxes. I need to reduce my tax liability, not pay taxes on as much as my income as I can now, and then maybe pay it later in retirement when I'll be in a lower tax bracket. So I tend to see, a better example of that would be doctors or lawyers, judges tend to have relatively higher incomes and they're looking to reduce their taxable income because they know in retirement that they'll probably be in a lot lower tax bracket than where they're at now. So again, the pre-tax contribution helps them. Whereas some people, right, the younger you are, usually the better the Roth option works out for you. So, for example, if you're someone just starting your career, you're probably at a relatively low or beginning type of salary. And, as you go on throughout your years, most likely that salary is going to increase. But again, being younger and starting a Roth contribution, you have, right, if you're 20, 21, for example, right, you may not retire to 65. So you have over 40 years worth of contributions and investing that you can do. So that earnings portion on your Roth account can really grow to a huge amount. And then as long as you take the money out after 59 and a half, you'll withdraw all of those earnings and your contributions federally tax free. So that's a huge benefit. It's one of the few things that allows you to withdraw money tax free that you actually earned from investing. So again, they both have benefits. Again, a lot of people always ask, "Hey, which is best?" They both have benefits for the most part. It's about what you prefer, and if it makes sense for you to use one versus the other when thinking about your tax situation. And if you're not sure, feel free to reach out to any retirement or financial professional, or even your tax or accountant would be able to tell you which option may be best based on your personal financial situation. The one thing you want to be careful of is taking advice from others, because what's best for the person next door is not necessarily best for you. So definitely make sure that what you're doing makes sense for your personal situation. All right. So this slide is really good because again, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times people hear that word Roth and they automatically assume that we're talking about an IRA. But a Roth IRA is just one type of retirement account, right? IRA, individual retirement account. Versus on this slide, I'm referring to a 457. But again, that this information also applies to 401ks, 403bs. Basically, most workplace retirement plans would fall on that left side category under 457. But as you can see, is some clear differences immediately when you're looking at this slide. As mentioned earlier, most times you have the option to select pre-tax or after-tax contributions, not to exceed the contribution limits. So one of the main differences between a workplace retirement plan, again, such as 401k, 457, 403b, is that those types of plans allow you to contribute a lot more money than an IRA would allow you to do. So as you can see, 23,000 for 2024 if you're under 50, 30,500 if you're over 50, and with the IRA, $6,500 if you're under 50, or $7,500 if you're 50 or older. So again, if you're someone who's like, hey, I'm really trying to save as much as possible, you want to look into what your employer has to offer if you're trying to save more than $6,500 or $7,500, depending on your age, because your workplace plan will allow you to save a lot more. Another difference is the income restriction on eligibility. So sometimes you may not be eligible to contribute to a Roth IRA because your income is above a certain level. So with your workplace plan, you're always eligible. It doesn't matter how high your income is. If your workplace retirement plan offers a Roth contribution option, you're always eligible to participate in that Roth contribution within your workplace retirement plan. But if you go to set up your own personal IRA at your local bank or with, some financial institutions such as Empower, the company I work for, Fidelity, Vanguard, if you set up like an IRA with those institutions, they're going to ask you what your income is to make sure that you're eligible to contribute directly to a Roth IRA. And again, if your income is too high to do a Roth IRA directly, definitely take a look at your workplace retirement plan, because you'll absolutely be eligible for that. And then the last thing on this slide is required minimum distribution. So if you're not familiar with the required minimum distribution, basically at some point, most retirement plans, when you're separated from employment, or if you just reach a certain age, you have to start taking out a specific amount of money each year from your retirement plan. The company holding your retirement plan can calculate that for you and tell you when that time begins. But in general, right now, you have to be 73 years of age. And if you're in a workplace retirement plan separated from employment, in order to be required to do a minimum distribution from your retirement plan. If you're in an IRA, whether you're employed or not, once you reach that age of 73, you have to start doing a required minimum distribution from the traditional IRA. As you can see, the Roth options do not have to satisfy a required minimum distribution. So essentially, you can leave that money invested indefinitely without the requirement to withdraw that money at any time. It's totally your option when to withdraw from that Roth account. Um, Another thing I wanted to mention is in reference to the income restriction on eligibility. So, again, like I said, some people, because of their income, they're not eligible to contribute directly to a Roth IRA. So some of you may have heard of the term backdoor Roth. But what a backdoor Roth is when someone identifies that, hey, my income is too high to contribute to a Roth IRA, but I still want to put money in a Roth IRA. So what they do is take advantage of what's referred to as the backdoor Roth. So what happens is they do a non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA because usually their income is also too high to deduct the income from making a traditional IRA contribution. So they do a non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA, and then they do a Roth conversion, and they convert the money that they've put into the traditional IRA to Roth, and that's the backdoor Roth that a lot of people refer to. So again, if you're not eligible to deduct your contributions from a traditional IRA, and you're also not eligible to contribute directly to a Roth IRA, a lot of people tend to take advantage of the backdoor Roth, again, a non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA, and then immediately, or maybe after a little bit of time, do a conversion, a Roth conversion from the traditional account into the Roth IRA. And basically, that's how some people get that money into a Roth, seeing that they're not able to do it directly. But again, you don't have to go through all of that if your workplace retirement plan offers a Roth contribution option to you. So this slide are just a few different questions to consider when thinking about whether you want to select a Roth versus a traditional contribution. Again, like I mentioned a couple of times, is you have the option to do both a lot of times in your workplace retirement plan. And I see a lot of people do both. So it makes sense sometimes that because sometimes people just really don't know where their tax situation is going to be in retirement, whether it's going to be higher or lower. So they just want the best of both worlds and to be able to diversify their tax strategy in retirement, having one account that's taxable and then having another account that's not taxable in retirement. So you can absolutely do both within the workplace retirement plan if you like. But these are some things to consider. So I'll go through these questions. So first question, do you think your tax rate will be higher when you retire than it is now? Right? So let's think about that, right? If your income tax rate will be higher in retirement, we want to avoid paying taxes at a higher rate. So if I know that in retirement, somehow I'm going to have a higher tax rate than what I have now, I much rather pay my taxes now than wait until retirement. So in that instance, I would want to use the Roth option, right? I would do the Roth, pay my taxes now, right? Take that money out of my paycheck after I've already paid taxes. So that way, later in retirement, when my income is higher, I don't even have to worry about that. I've already paid my taxes on the front end. So again, if you think your tax rate is going to be higher when you retire than what it is now, you may want to consider using a Roth contribution. Second question. And the second question, I have a slide a little further down to really illustrate this because it's pretty wordy. But can you afford to take a reduction in take-home pay in order to contribute the same percentage as you would with a pre-tax contribution? So ultimately, in the slide I'll show you a little later, right now, if you did a traditional contribution and a Roth contribution of the same exact percentage or dollar amount, Your paycheck right now will be slightly higher if you did a traditional contribution because that money is coming out before tax. So you take it out before tax, then taxes are deducted. The effect on your take home pay is a little less because of that. Whereas with the Roth, that same exact dollar amount is coming out, but we're taking it out after taxes. So the effect on your take home pay is a bit more relevant on the Roth side. So if you're someone who's like, hey, I need every cent, every dollar, but I still want to save for retirement, um, and you need a little bit more money now, and the traditional would help. But if you're like, hey, the difference between my take home pay after making a Roth contribution is not that big and you can, that's all right with you, then you want to go ahead and probably consider that Roth contribution. And again, I'll show a slide later to really illustrate that a bit better than what I can do with words. Third question says, do you want to diversify your tax strategy in retirement? So I spoke about this, right? So sometimes people just like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be in a higher or lower tax bracket in retirement. And in that instance, if you may want to do both to diversify your strategy. So that way you have some money that's taxable in retirement and you get the benefit of reducing some of your taxable income now. But then you'll also have the Roth account where you're paying your taxes up front. So you know that, hey, later on in retirement, I also have some money that I can pull from that's not taxable. So if you want to diversify your tax strategy, you may want to consider using both the Roth and the traditional contributions, especially in a workplace retirement plan, because certain plans like 401ks or some 403bs and 457, some of them offer matching components where your employer is putting in a matching contribution. So your employer's matching contribution is most likely traditional pre-tax, meaning, your employer is giving you that money so they can get a tax reduction. So you'll pay taxes on it when you go to withdraw. So if your employer is putting money in your retirement plan, um, almost 10 times out of 10, it's going to be traditional money that your employer is putting into your retirement plan. But you personally, out of your paycheck, have the option to do your contributions traditional or Roth or both if you would like to. But if you're looking to diversify your tax strategy, again, consider Roth and also consider doing the pre-tax, do both options. Question 4, are you prevented from making Roth IRA contributions due to your income? So if yes, right, if you are prevented from making Roth IRA contributions because your income is too high, like we spoke about a little bit earlier, then you want to consider using a Roth contribution within your workplace retirement plan because you're always eligible to do the Roth option in your workplace retirement plan. And then lastly, are you willing to forego current tax breaks for tax benefits at retirement? Right? Like I mentioned earlier, the traditional pre-tax gives you your main tax benefit now, right? If you do a traditional contribution, you're effectively reducing your taxable income by the amount of contributions you put into the traditional account for that year. So if I do, let's say I make $50,000 a year, but I put $10,000 as a traditional pre-tax contribution, when my employer reports my income to the IRS, the taxable portion is only $40,000 because I subtracted 10,000 and made that as a traditional contribution into a retirement plan. So it avoids taxes now. I'm only taxed on the $40,000 that I actually received, and then I'll pay taxes on the 10,000 later. So again, traditional gives you a tax benefit now of reducing your current taxable liability, but are you willing to forego that benefit to take advantage of the Roth benefit, which is paying your taxes up front, allowing your earnings to grow, and then withdrawing that money later after 59 and a half to withdraw not only your contributions, but also the investment earnings on those Roth contributions federally tax free. So is it worth it for you? If so, you want to consider that Roth option. So again, if you answer yes to a lot of these questions, it's possible that that Roth option may be the way you want to go. All right. So Andrew, I do just want to take a moment to see, are there any questions at all?
Yes, we have some.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I think I see him. Okay.
Yeah. In which cases can you withdraw from your Roth IRA before 59?
So, um, I guess technically from a Roth IRA, you're free to withdraw that money at any time, but again, that comes with a tax penalty and on any earnings that you withdraw. So any earnings that you withdraw from a Roth account before 59 and a half, the earnings portion would be subject to income taxes as well as a 10% federal tax penalty. So there are some things to avoid the tax penalty. Some things like depending on the dollar amount, you may be eligible to pay for certain types of education to avoid that 10% federal tax penalty. Maybe certain like health issues or different things. I would have to look up the exact list, but it's a list of things that you could avoid that tax penalty on. I haven't looked at that list in a while, but usually when you speak with your IRA provider, they'll tell you what reasons you would be able to avoid the federal tax liability or the penalty, excuse me.
Um, what is the income limit for a Roth IRA if you're over 50? Does that change the income limit?
Well, the income limit is not based on age, but let me here, I'll look it up really quickly. Give me a second. Income limit for Roth IRA. I believe it's relatively high, considering the average income for most of us. So for 20, this is for 2024. If you're a single filer, the Roth income limit is $161,000. And if you're married filing jointly, that income limit is 240,000. So if you're single making over 161,000 or married filing jointly making over 240,000, then you effectively are not able to participate with the Roth IRA. But again, your workplace plan is always eligible.
All right. This next one is just to clarify, the total I can contribute is 23,000. Is that between workplace and individual uh, IRAs? So example, if I contribute the 6,500 to a Roth IRA, can I only contribute the 16,500 to a workplace retirement account?
No, they're separate income limits. So if you have the income available and you're able to, you can actually maximize both of them. So you can do 23,000 to your workplace plan or 30,500 depending on your age to your workplace plan and also contribute the maximum of 6,500 or 7,500 to a an IRA. So if you have the income and you're able to, you can actually maximize both of them. They don't affect each other in that way.
If one spouse is covered by a pension, does that change the income limit?
Does that change? No. So I normally I work with New Jersey State employees. So if you are a New Jersey State employee, reach out to me and I can definitely speak with you about some of your options. But no, the pension again, that's a separate retirement plan, so it's not going to affect your eligibility towards an IRA or a voluntary workplace retirement plan that your employer may offer.
Somebody asked how you can be reached. You'll probably give your contact information out at the at the
Yeah,
end.
I can do that. Share my email and phone number, and yeah, you can absolutely reach out to me. All right, and then in reference to the other question, I just wanted to pull up a list, but it is a relatively long list. But in reference to how you can avoid the 10% penalty on IRA distributions, so obviously, you asked if you are under 59 and a half. So it's things like it says birth or adoption. So distributions up to $5,000 per child for qualified birth or adoption expenses. Um, Obviously, if you were to pass away, your beneficiaries would be able to withdraw that money without that penalty. Disability. So if you're totally or permanently disabled, you're able to withdraw your money from an IRA and avoid that 10% tax penalty. um, disaster recovery distribution, uh, domestic abuse victim distribution, education. So qualified education expenses, I believe it's a limit up to $10,000 for that. You can avoid the 10% tax penalty. Says emergency personal expenses. So one distribution per calendar year for personal use or family emergency expenses up to the lesser of 1,000 or a vested account balance over $1,000. Um, again, home buyers, right? So if you're a first-time home buyer, qualified first-time home buyer can withdraw up to $10,000 from an IRA prior to 59 and a half to avoid that 10% federal tax penalty. IRS levies, unreimbursed medical expenses subject to some limits. Certain distributions qualify for military reservists called to active duty. Some rollovers, right? If you roll over money from one retirement plan to another, that's not a taxable event. Um, some plans, well, that wouldn't apply to an IRA, but in general, those are some of the reasons you can avoid the 10% tax penalty. But if you have an IRA and you reach out to your IRA provider, they'll go through that list with you to let you know what you're eligible for.
Um, does the income limit change for IRA contributions if one working spouse is covered by a workplace retirement fund?
So in some instances, yes, it depends on what type it is. Again, that's something that you're going to want to reach out directly to your IRA provider to just verify exactly how that works. But in some instances, yes. It's not something that I work with on a regular basis, so I'm not able to just answer that directly here. But in some instances, yes, that is an issue for some people. All right. Anything else there, Andrew?
I don't see anything, so I
All
think we
right.
can continue.
All right. Thank you. So again, the next part of this presentation is going to be just some examples of some of the things we discussed so far to just get a real life look at how some of this stuff works. So some of the things are going to be relatively kept. Some of these things don't change, right? So the current salary is going to be the same, the time to retirement, the current tax rate versus expected tax rate at retirement. Um, Impact take home pay, total retirement income, taxation of other retirement accounts. So the key variables are going to be pretty consistent. They're going to stay constant through these examples, but the considerations are what you just want to take a look at and just be vigilant about because it'll help you understand this concept a little bit better if you haven't really caught on to some of the stuff just yet. So this first slide, again at the top, impact to take home pay using a 5% contribution. So right here, we're looking at the difference between the take home pay, right? How does the contribution affect your take home pay? Pre-tax versus Roth. So on the left side, right, $50,000 salary, 5% contribution equals $2,500 for the year. So on the pre-tax side, we're taking that $2,500 out of your pay before federal taxes, right? And then what's left after you make that traditional pre-tax contribution is taxable at the federal tax of, for this example, 25%. And then you see your take home pay on that bottom line, $35,625. So making a 5% contribution based on the $50,000 salary, pre-tax contribution will equate to $35,625 in take home pay for you. Same 5% contribution, same dollar amount being contributed on a Roth side. The only difference is when we take that 5% out of your pay. So 50,000 is your annual salary. The Roth contribution does not give you any tax benefit now. You're just paying your taxes like normal. So that entire $50,000 is taxable income. Federal taxes are then taken from that entire $50,000. And then what's left after you've paid your taxes for the Roth side is when we would then take out your Roth contribution, and that equates to a take-home pay of $35,000, right? So as you can see, the take-home pay on the Roth is a little less than what it would be with the traditional pre-tax contribution. So again, if you're someone who feels that, hey, that $600 is something that, I definitely would need over the year, again, it makes sense to probably take advantage of the pre-tax option. But if you're like, hey, I can forego, that little increase in take-home pay because I really want to take advantage of the Roth benefit of withdrawing all of my retirement contributions and earnings federally tax-free. Right. So this slide is looking at the impact at withdrawal. So again, remember we were doing a 5% contribution, but in general, as you've seen from the previous slide, you're contributing the same dollar amount, right? So no matter, we're taking it's the same dollar amount that's going into your retirement plan. And if the investments are the same, it's going to be the same dollar amount in the retirement account also. So as you can see, balance at retirement, $106,335. Same exact dollar amount invested the same way will equate to the same amount of money in each type of contribution in retirement. The only difference is one side, the traditional side, you haven't paid any taxes. So that entire amount as you withdraw is going to be taxable. Whereas on the Roth side, you've paid taxes up front. And as long as you do a qualified distribution, right? You're 59 and a half or older, and your first contribution was made at least 5 years prior to your withdrawal request from the Roth, that amount is tax free. So as you can see on the bottom, your take home pay in retirement, right, with the Roth account would be $106,335. You paid your taxes up front, you took a qualified distribution, it's tax free withdrawal. But with the traditional side, you have to pay taxes. So you're not going to take home 106,000, right? You're going to have to pay your taxes, and then what's left after the taxes is $79,751. So in retirement, the Roth option will allow you to take home more money, but as an active employee, contributions to a traditional pre-tax would allow you to take home more money. So that's one of the main differences. I really like this one because it really illustrates the difference at retirement, which most people are more so concerned with. Right. So when it comes to making the decision, again, of Roth versus pre-tax, again, it's a personal decision. What works best for some people is not necessarily what works best for you or what makes sense for you. So one of the examples I always give is the fact that, I'm a single individual living by myself, right? I don't need a minivan, but the family across the street from me, right? They have 3, 4 kids, right? Couple dogs themselves. They may need a minivan or a truck, right? So again, it's a pretty similar thing when it comes to your finances. You want to do what makes sense for you. You may hear other things from other people, but definitely double check. Use your resources to make sure that you're doing what's best for your personal situation. So again, you want to review your situation, right? Look at your current tax rate. That's relatively easy. You can go to Google and just type in like 2023 or 2024 tax rate, and it'll pull up a table to show you where you may fall in regard to income. And then you also want to try to compare that with your expected tax rate in retirement. So sometimes, right, if you have a pension, right, that pension is giving you an estimate of what you can expect in regard to income in retirement. If you have a retirement plan like an IRA or 401k, you may be able to say, hey, I know in retirement I'm going to take out, for example, $1,000 a month from these accounts. And that'll give you an idea of how much income you could expect from those sources. And you can use that information again to cross-reference it with the income tax table to see where you may fall in regard to income tax rate versus now as an active employee and retirement when you're no longer an active employee. The second bullet point, you also want to review your flexibility to decrease your current take home pay, right? Again, making a Roth contribution comes with a slight sacrifice now. You're going to take home a little less money right now if you do a Roth contribution versus a traditional contribution. So, is that something that you want to do, right? Is it worth it for you to take that lesser benefit now to take advantage of another benefit later in retirement? You also want to consult tax advisor or financial advisor to look at your situation because they look at these things all the time and they can give you a pretty good idea of what may work best for you. Another note on that is if you could, you want to try to pay those people hourly, right? So if you can just maybe set up like a 1 or 2 hour meeting with the tax advisor or financial advisor, pay them hourly, it usually works out better than just doing a long-term plan with them. So if possible, go for the hourly rate and just pay them that hourly rate and get the information you need and then decide if you want to do an ongoing relationship where maybe you pay them a certain percentage a year or a flat dollar amount a year to help with your financial situation. But in general, it's a good idea to maybe just do a flat hourly rate initially. Next is you want to utilize online tools and calculators. This financial stuff is taking off. So everybody has a financial page. All of these banks, financial institutions have a ton of articles, videos, calculators that you can use to really just see what things may look like for you and what may work best for you. So definitely use them. If you need help, they usually have people like myself that work with these plans that can help you at no additional cost. So definitely reach out. And then again, you want to access your accounts online, especially workplace retirement plans, IRAs, Social Security. If you have a pension, you want to log into that stuff and get as familiar as you can with the offerings there, and just understand how those accounts work. Because in my experience, a lot of times when people get closer to retirement, some of the things they're saying are, I wish I would have known, more about this initially. I wish I would have started sooner. I wish I would have saved more. I never had anybody speak with me about retirement and say, "Hey, I saved too much money." Right? I never hear that. It's always the opposite. Again, I didn't save enough. I wish I would have saved more. I wish I would have started earlier. I wish I would have known better sooner. So again, just get started as soon as possible. Sometimes people let the decision of traditional pretax versus Roth stop them from saving. So I say, hey, no matter which one you choose, you can always change it at a later time. But the most important thing is to get started, right? Getting started is the most important thing. You can iron out all of the details a little bit later, but definitely start saving and investing for your retirement as soon as possible, and you won't regret it. But that's it really. So any more questions in regard to anything we covered, or maybe just general questions you have at all, just let me know and I'll be glad to try to help out there.
Let's see. What age must withdrawals start for a traditional IRA, and how is the minimum amount of withdrawals calculated?
So for traditional IRA, right now the age is 73. So if you are reaching the age of 73 this year, or maybe you already reached the age of 73 in a previous year, technically you're supposed to start a required minimum distribution in the year that you turn 73. How it's calculated, great question. It's calculated based on your December 31st balance from the year before. So if you're someone turning 73 this year, right? They would look at your December 31st balance, December 31st of 2023, and then they would divide it by an IRS factor. So the IRS has these tables, they call them the life expectancy tables, and depending on your situation, right, single, married with a spouse 10 or more years younger than you, depending on your situation, they have a table that determines your life expectancy factor, right? So they're like, hey, if you're 73, maybe you're, just as an example, this is not an exact number, but 73, maybe the life expectancy is like 28 for someone who's 73. And then in that instance, they would divide your December 31st of 2023 balance by that factor of 28. And then whatever that dollar amount is, that's the amount that you have to take out of your plan for that year. So if you're 73 or older, you would have to start that from a traditional IRA if you haven't started already, and also from a workplace retirement plan. But usually with the workplace retirement plans, if you're still actively working, usually that you get to forego that requirement, no matter your age, but just double check with your plan. But yeah, normally in a workplace retirement plan, if you're still working, that doesn't apply to you yet. But as soon as you separate and you're 73 or older, you normally have to start that required minimum distribution immediately. So I'm gonna share our website, right? I work for Empower. It's a retirement company. So if you're looking to set up IRAs, maybe you already have a workplace retirement plan through Empower. You can definitely go to our website, look at the different offerings and information available to you for any help you may need. Um, and again, for my main job now is I work with Empower on a few New Jersey plans. So specifically for New Jersey state employees. So I'm limited as to what I can do if you're not a New Jersey state employee, but at least I can do is maybe point you in the right direction for whatever you may have interest in. So I'm also going to just share my email and my phone number. Feel free to reach out, and if you have any questions that maybe we didn't cover here, or maybe you just wanted to do on your own, I'll I'll be glad to help out. And again, maybe just point you in the right direction if I can't help you directly.
All right. Question, with the Trump tax cuts expiring in 2026, should traditional IRAs be converted to Roth IRAs to reduce the tax rate?
So, great question. So, if we, you know, if we know, right, if they give us a forecast of what those tax rates are going to be and they are considerably higher than where they are now, then yes, that may make sense to go ahead and pay those taxes at a lower rate versus waiting and possibly pay taxes at a higher rate. It's just about, a lot of people um, are not always in position to pay those taxes out of pocket, because normally in a conversion, most financial professionals would urge you to pay the tax liability out of pocket if possible, because ultimately you want to keep that money invested without taking away from that. But absolutely, if it shows that those tax rates are going to be considerably higher than where it is now, it absolutely makes sense to pay taxes now versus waiting to pay them at a higher rate later. But again, if you're going to do a conversion, if you can pay those taxes out of pocket, that's the preferred method. If not, you can take some money out of the retirement plan to pay those taxes, but that's not the preferred method.
Um, is there an estimate on when they'll release those tax rates?
Not necessarily. I mean, you know, um, like you said, sometimes with this stuff, it goes to the last minute. I think we're all familiar with that. So they really don't have a forecast on it that I've seen.
Right, we'll give it a couple more minutes to see if any other questions come in. But anything you kind of want to wrap up or close with?
Um, I mean, in general, I kind of mentioned it throughout the presentation. Like, retirement comes a lot faster than a lot of people give it credit for. So again, you just want to start as soon as possible, even if you have to start at a small amount. Sometimes I hear people say, "Hey, I can't afford it. I really can't afford to save anything for retirement." And those tend to be the people who need it the most. So again, if you can just start, even if it's just 1%, right? $1 for every $100 that you make. Just start there and gradually increase that amount every year, maybe by another 1%. because again, it's just going to put you in a better situation for your future. Even if it's something that maybe you don't use or you don't need, it could be something that you just leave to your family and just put them in a better position to, give them a little head start. But that's my biggest thing. Just save money as soon as possible, because eventually the time may come where that money will save you. So there are plenty of good situations to use the money for, but there are also, there's the other side of life where things are not going our way. But having money tends to help people a lot, especially with these retirement plans. I've seen a ton of different situations. I don't want to get gloomy on a great day, but again, just save as much money as you can, and it can really help you.
All right, thank you so much, Gerard, for presenting today. We really appreciate having you here, and thank you everybody for attending. This program is being recorded, so a link to the video will be sent to everybody in a follow-up email. So in case you missed anything, you could certainly go back and watch the recording, or Gerard has put his contact information in the chat. Please reach out to him with any questions that you may have. So, and I'd just like to end by saying everybody be safe, be well, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.